Welcome back, my fellow film buffers. What streaming service are we recommending today? Well, it's Apple Plus, because you gotta go watch Your Friends and Neighbors. I have a larger observation, a larger statement to make with this series. But let me just tell you, it's a great show. It's fun. It's funny. Nice little mystery. You're engaged episode to episode, and you actually care about the characters and the outcome. With that said, we have a conversation about an evil of Hollywood. Typecasting. Typecasting has destroyed a lot of careers. We might say it builds careers if we really look at it, but it keeps a lot of people out of great roles. That's today's discussion. So I'm recommending this show. You can go subscribe, check it out. You'll enjoy it. But we got to talk about typecasting. Let's go.
Quiet on the set.
Camera speed.
Sound production, take one.
Action!
Yeah. So it might have been on the Bret Easton Ellis podcast. The Bret Easton Ellis show. I wrote an article about it on my website, AKAPAD.com. Peter Anthony DeLuca. You guys know it all, right? I don't feel like plugging myself too much right now. But I wrote an article about how influential the Bret Easton Ellis podcast was in my efforts for this, to where I had to develop the entire show, everything you guys get, from a singular voice. And that voice had to be real. This is from a fallout where I tried doing this show with other individuals, and they either were lazy about it, they started to trail off, I tried to move on. I tried to have a collection of individuals to sit down with. But if I cared about a little bit of a mission statement, it was hard to include other people. And that mission statement sometimes, right? It comes from you. It comes from like your guts. It's who you are. So it's not just content. It's not just a podcast, even though this is the greatest film review, film discussion podcast on planet Earth. It's also you. It's the individual. And a lot of what you guys see here comes from me. So Rainn Wilson was on the Bret Easton Ellis podcast, and that episode, and Rainn Wilson is Dwight from The Office. That episode really opened my eyes to how vocal he was about trying to get other roles, and he can't do it. He gets like third person from the top type movies. He's just thrown in movies, cameos, call him anything you want. But he went in plenty of times to be the guy. And then we have Dwight. I'm just going through The Office. We have Dwight, and then across from Dwight, we have John Krasinski. He goes out for Captain America, Star-Lord. I believe he suited up for maybe Batman. For Superman, Batman, so he tries to get in Marvel movies, he tries to get into DC movies, recognizable face, but also typecast as Jim. So what does he do? Well, he becomes a filmmaker, writer, director. He was the mind with Ryan Reynolds behind If. We didn't like that one too much, but the Quiet Place movies, we give so much credit to him for those. Especially that newer one, Day One, that prequel, really good stuff there. Given it's different team around the production of that, but it's still his baby. It's still his franchise. But he's in some movies here and there. Rainn Wilson, some movies here and there. But then we have Steve Carell from The Office. I always think I pronounced his name wrong, but we just talked about him. He was just in Steve Carell, Michael Scott. right? We just talked about him in Mountainhead, where he kind of plays like a Michael Scott character, just making weird jokes throughout. Just maybe that's some of his real sense of humor. I don't know. But Steve Carell is in a lot of things. I've been waiting to bring to you guys 4 seasons. A fantastic miniseries also that spun out of a Alan Alda movie. But, that's Netflix. He's in that. He's major drop from HBO Max season. He's in the major drop from Netflix. He's got no problem, right? So we accept Michael Scott moving on. We accept Jim becoming a filmmaker, but we don't accept Dwight. Where I'm getting with this is when we look at the Office casting and the future that these people have, it's a dream for a young actor to be a part of something like The Office. It's even the dream of the network. The network wants to put out, if they can do have every single show equal to the success of The Office, the network would do it. The merchandise, it's repeatable. People battle. They're willing to pay for the rights. All of it. So we get to Don Draper, Mad Men. John Hamm. This is our actor that portrays Don Draper. This show ended in 2015. And he has come up in equal to Rainn Wilson and John Krasinski. Every single franchise that you can think about, this guy has had his name floated around it. I'm sure with a lot of the names that I'm talking about today, I am sure there's a library of costume tests, test shoots, maybe being on set for a day or two to feel it out, shoot a couple scenes, make it as real as possible to see if someone fits. There's probably a lot. But this guy, Don Draper, John Hamm, cannot move past Mad Men. A largely, arguably the greatest TV show of all time. But Steve Carell in The Office does it. Robert Pattinson, right? Not typecast in Twilight. Daniel Radcliffe in a ton of good movies. Not so much typecast as Harry Potter. But Don Draper, he's typecast. You cannot put him in anything. People will just look at him and they'll associate whatever he's in. And recently too, I was watching Top Gun Maverick, and he's in Maverick. Plays a great military officer. You just believe it. I mean, so it's a weird thing, isn't it? And the revelation I had with watching Your Friends and Neighbors, and this is attributed. I mean, we have to give so much credit to Jonathan Trooper, the show's creator. I don't know who else is in the writing room, but John Hamm transitions in this show. He becomes Coop, and Coop, day late and the buck short, life happens, loses his wife. His wife starts banging someone down the street. They're all 1%ers, so the guy's a basketball star. I didn't start watching this show until probably around, I'm going through some of the synopsises here on Wiki. Episode 3. So I'm watching like 3, I'm watching 4, I'm watching 5, dropping weekly. My fiance's really into the show, and I'm just asking her like details. I'm like, who's this? Who's that? Who's this? Who's that? Right? It takes me a couple weeks to catch up to the show. But by the time we hit episode 9, like I'm all in on what the resolution is. And it's satisfying, perfect ending. The adventure, the story continues. Now, can it That's a broader observation with the show. A lot of times with these shows, we get like a very well done gimmick, and they tell the story through that gimmick. This is a guy that lost his livelihood, and he's turning the crime, and he's not, he's learning about crime to pay for things, and he's getting involved with stuff, and he's getting involved with people he shouldn't be getting involved in. This is like, this is classic stuff here. But I'm watching this, and all of a sudden, right, Don Draper becomes Coop. Now John Hamm, he's Coop. He killed Don Draper with this show, and he shoveled a lot of shit to get to this point, and I think it's commendable. I think there's a strength in the casting for the show. I mean, overall, it's Olivia Munn. She's fantastic in this. Lena Hall, she's fantastic. She's this shrewd lawyer banging the dude. Amanda Peet, in my view, absolutely stood out in this show. So we get all of these things, right? And your friends and neighbors kills Don Draper so this guy can move on and be an actor, because that's what he's put on earth to do. With his look alone, right? Like, it's almost like you don't want to waste good looking people. You just don't. And I feel like nothing is wasted with John Hamm. He headlines the show, which is there, but he can move on now, and I think we're going to see him in a lot of different things. I want to say a return to him becoming an It Boy. All right, AK Pirates, I know we kind of didn't talk too much about the show, but we had to talk about typecasting with this, because that's the true observation with your friends and neighbors. Go subscribe to Apple Plus. Check the show out. It comes highly recommended from the Film Buff. I love you guys. Rock and roll.
Okay, that's a wrap.